All right, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Free Range American podcast. We are here with some guys from the bobsled team. All right, let's introduce yourselves around the table and get this going.
I'm Chris Walsh. I'm one of the Team USA Bobsledders.
And where do you sit?
I sit typically, I can switch, but usually in like the third position. So I push from the right side and climb in third.
Cool.
So, yep.
Frankie Del Duca, spent 3 years as a push athlete, now 3 years as a pilot. So I sit up front and steer.
Try not to crash.
Yes, absolutely.
He's good at not crashing.
Usually.
Yeah. Well, when the equipment works.
We'll get into it.
Yeah.
Yes, recent equipment failure, but okay.
Dakota Lynch, I typically sit in the back as the brakeman, so number 4 guy. I've been working in on the right side, so 3 guy a little bit.
Cool.
Blaine McConnell, third year on the team, and I sit second, so I'll be pushing usually from the left side of the sled.
Okay. Who's been on the team the longest? Or who's been doing this the longest? Sled.
It'd be
Frankie.
Yeah? What got you into it?
Well, we had some guys in college where we were like, you know what are we going to do after we're done competing here? Like, we worked hard, like we're enjoying competing. We don't really want to stop. We're not going to go pro in track.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do after this? I mean,
This ain't going to happen.
I mean, we weren't slow, but like, we're not going to the Olympics in track. So,
I mean, for everybody's sake, like, none of these guys are slow at all. So,
It's relative.
slow is really
yeah,
relative
it's
when we're talking about this.
so we're kind of thinking like, bobsled is really cool. Like, let's do it. They hold combines. When I found out there were combines, just like most other professional sports, we tried out and I mean, snowball effect. I showed up my rookie year for a rookie camp and I just never left.
You guys can't get rid of me. Yeah. I swear.
Like, I had to go back home to get clothes before tour. I was like, oh my God, I'm going like on the World Cup. That's nuts.
super cool.
They tried to get rid of him, it just didn't work.
They did, dude. This is what happened. Now it's all going to come out.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just did one, we call them quads, the 4 years up into and including the Olympics. I was like, I'm going to do one as a push athlete, then I'm going to switch to driving. I raced cars legally in a motor club. And I was like, you know what?
As far as the government knows.
Yeah. I was like, I just love racing and driving anything.
Cool.
So when I found out you can actually drive the sled, I was like, oh, I'm in. Let's go.
So how does driving the sled work?
It's very simple. There's 2 metal D-rings, we call them. They're connected to a rope.
Just like a ripcord. Like on the old MC4. Looks exactly the same. Yeah.
Like literally just ripcord handles on a rope.
Yep.
On a metal rope. A metal ring rope. It connects to the front axle and it turns like a soapbox car. So all this research and development.
That's why I crashed.
Yeah.
So let's explain the crash. Keep going.
So it's just very
So how's it
simple.
work?
Like, you can do all this research and development in aero and all this fancy stuff, but in the end, it's a metal ring, a piece of rope, and an axle that can only go this way.
So in the end, like a lot of the other winter sports, you're just sliding on ice.
Yes,
pretty much.
It's in the end, it's simple.
Okay.
Very simple.
Controlled
Not
chaos.
scary at all.
Yeah.
So what happens if you have a malfunction? Or what is a malfunction that's common?
Well, a D-ring coming loose, that handle that you hold to steer, we fix it as best we can, and it should not come loose, but things happen.
When the handle turns into an oh shit handle?
Yes, that's what happened. I mean, less than a week ago. I loaded in the sled and went to get my D-rings.
Exactly.
And there was only one. And you definitely need 2.
You're like, this is half the equation.
So I'm
sure as shit, I can only turn one direction. This ain't NASCAR.
Now.
That's perfect. Now you have a NASCAR.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, but the problem is
on an F1 course.
Yeah, of course, with the right turn.
Get some.
that's the problem is we do have to steer both ways.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of pressure that goes through the sled.
Mm-hmm.
Up to 6 Gs.
Yeah. And the fastest track in the world is well into the 90s. 95 or 96, I think, is the speed record. 96 point, whatever. It's kilometers to miles per hour.
Kind of quick.
It's fast. And that creates a lot of pressure when you're up on the turns. And so doing it with one D-ring, it wasn't
optimal.
It was less than ideal. We'll say less than ideal. And we made it through the last. We had one last left to make it through, and I only had the right D-ring. I don't know if I said that or not. So I needed the left to steer it. If we made it through that one turn, we'd be fine. But no, we pretty much ping-ponged all the way down and then flipped
Straight to the roof.
3 feet high.
You guys
dropped on
pretty
our
much hit
heads
the
at
roof
83
and then
miles
came
an
off,
hour.
Yeah, so that's why you guys have big necks.
Yeah. Well,
to support the sled.
Maybe some swelling.
Human tripods.
Okay.
Different kind of way. Yeah.
Our helmets, Blaine and I's helmets were burned flat, so that was kind of.
Really?
They did their job.
They did do their job.
So
I was hoping
new
to
helmets
never
now?
figure out if that helmet was going to need to do its job, but you went and made that happen.
You should go through one helmet per crash.
Yeah.
Like per crash, you should get a new helmet. I crashed 3 times on the same helmet. So that's probably why I'm not as smart as I used to be. But
It's never that smart.
yeah, I didn't start out with a lot either. So
Well, I mean, it's one of those like you don't have to be smart, just push really hard.
yeah.
Right? Is that kind of scenario?
That's a simple job.
Yeah.
It's a very simple job.
Strong
All right,
ranger,
big
you
man,
know?
push fast.
Yeah,
Okay.
That is him to a T. Too. They use like. Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah, that's all right there.
So, what other protective gear are you guys wearing out there?
We have burn vests, so similar to what you'd wear motorcycle racing or anything like that. It's a thin piece of cloth that we basically have under our speed suit. So if we do crash and we happen to be going 80 or 90 miles an hour,
Like you were.
yeah, and if you're going to be sliding against that ice, even though ice is cold, you're going to get heat friction, and that could end up burning skin off. And we've got guys on the team that have had skin grafts because that's happened to them. So I also found out my burn vest works great, thanks to Frankie last week. So,
Damn,
They've
2
been
for 2.
yeah,
They've been
I have a
hammering
good
me
helmet and I
about
have a good burn vest. Thanks.
Now we know the shit works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's,
It was an ops test. We're just testing equipment.
okay.
Yeah.
Pretty sure outside of like the rookies, which would have been Manio this year, that I was the last person that is not wrecked until last week.
Yeah, I think that's
Like out of
fair.
our rookie class,
I think
and all the
everyone on
vets
the
that have
team
been
has
here,
crashed,
I
yeah.
was the only person on the team that has never crashed.
Yeah.
Very
3.5
rarely.
years, and then Frankie just decided we're gonna break that record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very rarely will you make it through your whole career without crashing.
See, he just wants to make sure that
I feel part of the
sticks
group.
with you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
you
you're
need
not,
to be
you're
included.
not considered a full bobsledder until you've been
crashed. So
initiated.
he
in
just became a
crash.
bobsledder.
He doesn't
Yeah.
know
Like
it.
a
but
week
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations.
Last week.
As opposed to me, second day in a 4-man, crashed, racked my head, got so dizzy I was vomiting.
Oh, his
Like,
first
you know,
week in the sport.
yeah.
It's kind of like
was rough.
parachuting. Like, you crash early and it's like, all right,
Yeah.
cool. I'll just get back in the air and then it's not a big deal.
Hard landing, yeah.
You're going a little faster. It's a little scarier for you guys. So I don't necessarily want to do that, but all right.
There's a thing that we kind of say that get back on the horse.
Yeah.
And as a driver, you don't want to let it affect you. So right away, you need to be like, well, are we good? Okay, are we going to go again? Like, let's go.
Yeah.
Because you
Just gotta
don't.
send it.
Yeah, exactly. So we get back on the horse and we just go.
So what are you guys doing up here? And we're in Salt Lake City right now and you guys are training up in Park City.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's going on this week and why are you guys in town?
We got,
let's explain that.
So like the Olympic selection, our team selection process, there's a few things that you have to do to make the team. One of them is national team trials. And due to COVID, we were supposed to have like a testing event out in Beijing about this time.
Okay.
But because it got pushed, because we were not going to Beijing anytime soon, they moved our national team trials up because they moved that testing event to our normal time in the fall when we would do this. So
Okay.
essentially this is Olympic selection tests or races for the Team USA.
Yeah.
Primarily for the drivers, it determines their rank. But for the push athletes, like where we finish with our driver is part of our selection criteria. So it's important that, we come out and perform and do really well because like their result is our result. So, you want to, if you finish first, that's going to look really good when they're saying who we send to the Olympics.
Weird.
So,
It's a team event.
yeah.
Strange.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So like, do you guys get put into teams based on compatibility or weight, or how did that occur where, you guys end up in one sled together, all going down the course as one unit?
It depends on the time of year. So team trials, the coaches and everyone try to stay out of it and be unbiased as they can.
Mm-hmm.
So they allow the team to kind of form their own crews. Pilots will choose who they want racing with them. And then after the team selection has been made and they've named the pilots that'll be on the national team and then the brakemen that'll be on the national team, then the coaches come in and say, all right, we want this group racing together and then we want that group. But
Okay.
for what we're here now for team trials, like everything has been athlete run. The coaches are there giving a little bit of feedback as possible, but they're not telling you like you're racing with them. Like everything right now has been decided by athletes and drivers.
And how many athletes are there like all together that are trying to get selected for how many spots? Like, what's the breakdown there ish?
We got six 4-man crews right now.
Okay.
So we got 6 pilots, and then that'll be 18 brakemen.
Yep.
Okay.
But then
there's like one extra guy here right now, so pretty much
just a floater.
That's because of COVID. There's like a bigger
pusher.
A pusher, yeah. One. Normally you have a few alternates, but yeah, COVID has been.
There's a
tough.
bigger
weird year.
Yeah, just because of the quarantines, and then
Has that affected like races that you should have done, would have done? I mean, you said Beijing.
This year's
I mean,
very
completely.
so you've been missing a bunch of events, and
We sat out
missed
the
the whole-
first half of the season.
Yeah.
So basically everything from November to December we sat out. And then we went over to Europe in January and did the rest of the races. But the men's team left before World Championships also, just due to rankings and COVID and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
We wanted to get back here and start training for team trials because that's what's going to be most important for us.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that we've missed. Being over in Europe, I was on the World Cup this year, got to at least get some more runs on the national tracks and everything. But it was strange. We're getting like Q-tips shoved down our noses twice a week, every week, and just sitting around. Like we had to avoid pretty much it felt like just a glorified version of training. No fans at any of the tracks.
it's wild.
Weren't allowed to really interact with other teams like we normally do. So.
And does that affect like how you're feeling about how you're racing? You know, I mean, do the fans like in an arena, right? You can hear fans and everything. Like, do you guys get that feeling the same way?
hype is
the crowd,
insane.
the crowd jacks you up. I
That kind of
remember
energy.
the first time pushing in Placid,
That
and
World Cup Placid.
World Cup, and
The camera comes up like this, and they get the look on the brakeman's eyes, and everyone's intense. And
fans are just lining the side of the
home
track.
track, that's US.
that's
You can't
cool.
hear because everyone's just yelling
It's
USA,
super
and
loud.
you walk
Screaming.
up, and
Yeah.
like it's one of the first times I felt it in a while. It was just electric. You know,
That's
you just feel
rad.
that electric feeling going through your body. So if you've got that adrenaline going through, you're going to push better.
Oh, I know. I know what you guys are saying. I mean,
Yeah.
jumped into some stadiums and it feels the same way.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
that's why I asked. You know, it's so now, like you were saying, like there's no crowds there. So instead, you guys are now apparently it's something you do all the time, but you guys are taking lots of caffeine, drinking lots of coffee. Let's break that down. So morning, noon, and night. Like, how's the coffee routine running?
I mean, I think every one of us starts the day off with coffee. And that's just like the tip of the iceberg of our caffeine
The tip of the
consumption.
iceberg,
Yeah.
the tip of the barrel.
So this is how we kind of like to describe it: is you wake up in the morning, you get coffee. The coffee just gets you to zero.
Yeah.
So that's like
So you're starting at
that's
negative.
negative caffeine.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't count my coffee on race
You're
day.
pushing the car at this
Yeah.
point.
Exactly.
You just gotta, you gotta turn it on.
Yeah, you
That's
gotta turn it
the
over.
mission, yeah.
Exactly. You wake up, you do that. So depending on what time of day that we're racing, usually 30 minutes before I start to go warm up, I'll have around like 200 to 300 milligrams of caffeine. Then I'll go do my warm up, which takes 45 minutes ish, depending on what's available. Before the first run, I'll probably take another 300 milligrams because you're getting ready to push a 200 kilo sled.
Because more is better.
Yeah, more is better.
Ride the lightning.
Exactly.
Over
You're getting ready to push a
210
200 kilo
kilos.
sled, so you're
Don't
just
cut us
holding
10
on, and
kilos.
all you're thinking about is just trying to break this thing as much as you can and run as fast as you can. So we'll do the first run. Usually there's 30 minutes to an hour before you have to go for your second heat. So that's plenty of time to get
After you
another
finish.
300 in.
Yeah.
Yep.
So at this point, I'm right around 900
Perfect. It's
Yeah.
great for you.
to. I'll push a gram sometimes. Just
Get
depends
some.
on how I'm feeling.
The
Push
legal
athletes are animals.
Yeah.
man.
Yeah,
There is a
so a
legal
cup of coffee has like 25 to 50 milligrams
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
caffeine, just so everybody's aware.
the legal amount we can push is a gram. So that's
Yeah.
where the
Get some.
cutoff
For-
is.
yeah,
for
yeah.
USADA or
Yeah.
WADA, getting drug tested.
I'm a little more conservative. I have a couple cups of coffee because I'm driving. So I need to be pumped up with the guys and push really hard,
Yeah.
but I have to get in the sled and be very calm and
So you need to be stoked, not
finesse
shivering.
movements. Yes, if I'm shaking, I'm
Yeah,
going
you're
to be
not
steering the
foaming at the
sled.
mouth.
Just for my tremors, I'll be steering the sled. So I want my hands to be calm, and my mind to be calm. But right before that, I need to push like an animal with these guys for just that few seconds.
Yeah,
So
and
I'm
all-
a little bit
All you want
lower
going on
that.
behind you is like some crazy heavy breathing lunatics that just,
Yeah.
let's go. Okay.
Oh, it's a good feeling knowing the guys are behind you, and it's good.
Yeah.
We get fired up.
That's cool.
So to speak.
So do you guys have like some sort of pre-run ritual as a group
Yeah.
that you participate in besides,
Yeah, there's
Drinking 12
there's
espresso
a
shots.
cadence that we do to start.
So
So
you do your cadence.
like we get the sled on the line, you put it down, we'll make sure the push bars are out, everything's ready to go for the push, and then driver comes up and he usually puts his hand in first, and then we all stack like left, right, back, and then it's just the backs it ready, and then like kind of like a
I could literally show you and take
Yeah, we could do it. It's better if we do it. It's hard for me to just be like, oh, explain it. It doesn't sound as
It might be
cool.
tough with the table. I don't want you guys to break it.
Yeah.
So
No, but it's that cadence that we talk about. And
we'll link a video.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But so like, for instance, me, I'll be at the front of the sled on the pilot bar. And after we do that initial cadence, just to get timing, because timing's, you're trying to move that, you're trying to break the inertia of a 400 plus pound sled. So hitting it at the same time is
And is it
paramount.
kind of sticking to the ice at all?
It can.
Like,
It depends.
Sometimes,
If it's a
yeah.
Ice
tacky,
conditions.
yeah. And
sometimes it's blazing, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, did we add
Yeah,
weight
you
or
can like
something?
let go of
Yeah.
it and it'll stay there. And sometimes it'll just like want to run. So
And I remember when I was a push athlete, you go to move the sled and it's like really sticky. It's
you're like, oh no.
great.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, so we do have a cadence. The brakeman will say set, and I hit the sled to let them know I heard you and I'm set. And then it's back set. So the guy in the back is ready. Back set, ready, boom.
And
On
then-
that third metronome, you just
Yeah, it's
Let it
like
rip.
it's a beat. It's back set ready, done. Like
Yeah.
you're hitting
Yeah,
it
yeah.
on that done.
And you hit because on usual years, there's probably a ton of noise going on and you want to make sure that you can feel it. So he heard it,
I
but
hit
you
the
can't
sled.
necessarily hear him.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And I don't want to like look back and give him a thumbs up because
Yeah.
we're trying to get in the
Like, yes,
zone.
these two
So
are
it's-
Nah,
for
you're
sure.
like,
It's
I gotta
very
follow
primitive.
rule number one and look cool.
Yeah. Always look cool, sound cool.
It's
Always
very,
look cool.
Yeah. Or whatever, yeah.
it's primitive. It's just set, boom, boom, back set, ready.
Cool.
It's very just to the point.
And have you guys have all of you only done bobsled? Has there been any like luging, skeleton? Is there any crossover to those?
No, there's
Athletes.
such different dynamics of what you need to be able to do in that
Okay.
sport. Luge is the Wild West. There's like very little rules in luge. You can do whatever you want, but you need to start playing luge.
super
It's a naked
young.
man.
Yeah.
Sliding down the course, right? Like,
If you're gonna do luge, you need to have been in the sport since you're 8.
Or
Because
and
it's
a
gonna
crazy
take
person.
you 10 years before you're even able to go from the top because it's such a technical sport. And they
Oh,
go
really?
they go
It's
faster than we
fast.
do.
Yeah, it's very
And-
fast.
They're the fastest
It's a little rocket.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
they have actual edges more so than us. We have rounded runners.
Okay.
So a lot of people will call them blades because it's on
Yeah.
ice, and that's
Yeah, yeah.
just kind of like naturally what you want to call it. They're totally round. I mean, it's like your finger. They're round. So I can't steer it as much as a luge athlete can. I need the pressure.
So they have more control.
They can be on a straightaway and actually influence what they're doing, and they can really
That's terrifying.
steer a lot because they bend their kufen. I think it's called kufen. They bend it and can actually really
Sure.
steer.
You could throw me in there.
Yeah.
Let's roll with it.
I'm pretty sure you made that up.
Yeah, that's
so
a
you,
fake
so you
word.
very rarely
Please write
see
in
some-
losers.
You rarely see someone go from bobsled to luge. Occasionally, you'll see someone go from luge to bobsled, and they make
Okay.
pretty good drivers because they have such a.
Like awareness of the track and
awareness of
understanding what's
pressures.
going on.
I actually
They're probably
did-
frustrated a lot.
it doesn't do jack.
F1 to NASCAR, they're like, ah!
Yeah.
Exactly.
I actually did skeleton, not competitively, but I did like a skeleton school when I went from being a brakeman to a driver just to see the track at speed because I was just head down. All I saw was the floor of the sled.
I'd really like to see the track from like
I'd
about
like to
3
see
inches.
it. Yeah, I'd like to see it before I go. So I did some from a lower start on a skeleton and then went from a lower start on a sled and worked my way up a bobsled.
Generally, we don't fit on skeletons and they don't fit in bobsleds.
Yeah, I
There's
smashed.
different body types for sure.
Yeah.
There's
Like
little-
160
I feel like those guys are more like my size.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Like
There's a
160
weight
like
pounders.
not so big.
There's some
They're
limit
still-
they got to meet that we can't do.
Yeah, they're still fast. They're quick. They're just, it's a little bit of a slimmer build.
You're like, it's cool, kind of.
I'm not a big bobsledder. And when I went on
Yeah.
a skeleton sled, I destroyed my shoulders. I was just like, I don't know how
You're
they
too
do
big
this.
for it?
Yeah, the sled I was on, I was too big for.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Yeah, whatever.
But the driving thing is 100% what he was saying. I went to a few skeleton races on the World Cup. I remember the first one I went to go watch. You see them going through a corner, and all you hear is this. I'm like, man, those sleds are not sliding across the ice very smooth. And the guy goes, no, that's their helmet because they're
Bouncing
sitting
off the
head
dirt.
first,
Yeah.
and they can get up to 6 G's like us. And all they do is they go through that and it just buries their head.
You
to the
can't
ice.
hold your head up.
They don't see anything, and it's just you just hear the helmet just, and they come out of the turn and they pick their head back up, and here I am.
So they go by
That sounds
feel as well.
ridiculous. So I thought they were crazy before. Now they're just
They're
lunatics.
nuts. Yeah, they're nuts.
Yeah, that's freaking crazy. So have all of you guys driven at some point at all, or
I did
just
drive
a
at
little
school.
bit?
I'm like
Yeah.
Frankie. I wanted to drive really badly, but they want you to start a little sooner.
be in control.
Yeah, and I race cars currently now, and so
Yeah, we're very similar.
yeah, so it's natural. Like people who are just like to drive want to drive,
Yeah.
but I was a little late to the game age wise, so they want drivers a little earlier in their life, I guess, to step into that game.
And so you said age. Is there kind of like an age bubble that most of the sledders,
it's
sledders
almost
are
always
in?
post collegiate. So you won't see anyone
mid-20s.
under 21 typically.
Yeah.
And
Probably
I'd
not
say
big enough.
you've got a pretty average age, a little older with this crew. Like
Yeah.
Frank's the youngest guy. The rest of us are over 30, mid 30s or later.
just leave it at mid 30s for you guys. I'm definitely not 30, but
Yeah, so you can be a little later in your athletic career in bobsled and still be a good push athlete. Like
Which is why you end up with crossover athletes,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
if you're powerful and pretty and fast, you could pick up pushing quick and at any stage in your athletic career. Driving, going back to what Chris said, it takes a little bit of time to be able to compete against the world's best and to become the world's best. So and I believe this, Chris has a great instinct for driving, but I guess what he was saying is maybe needed more time in the front seat.
you got to think about, like, if you were to go practice basketball, you can go to the court and like shoot baskets for an hour straight. These guys in a season will get 2 to 3 runs a day and like 3 months out of the year, 3 to 5 months out of the year. So
Runs
it's
are
just
less
very,
than a minute.
very limited.
Yeah.
So if you do, let's just say 100 runs, I mean, you're like not even at 2 hours of of driving training.
And
you
it's
can do
not-
that in
and
no
it's
time
not
in a
like
car.
race car driving where you could sort of do a little bit of simulated stuff
the
and
sims are so
sort
good
of
in race cars,
understand what's going on. But
Right.
like, there's no way to simulate the G-forces and how a sled
No,
works.
that's why driving is just a little different with a bobsled. And driving a bobsled is nothing like driving a car. I think we needed to find that out pretty quick because
Well, I mean, there's no
throttle,
there's no throttle and brake.
It's just,
but also
Well, there's a brake.
Yes.
One brake.
you get fined if you use it in the track.
yeah. So
Oh, really?
Yeah.
If you use it
annihilate a
anytime
curve.
before the final timing hour, you're going to get a fine.
What's the fine like?
I think it's
Does it
depend on the
250
track?
I think it's 250 euros.
Yeah.
Even here?
Well, I don't want to find
Do they
out.
find you in euros?
No, not
That'd be
yet.
kind of funny.
The Federation would if it was a race.
What's the conversion?
Damn. Is it because it screws the track up?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just unfair
just-
to the competitors.
yeah.
Like if we're on a sled and the sled before us just, cranks the
it.
brakes, it's like, sweet, now we have moguls to go through.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Well, and how does so how does the brake work?
It's really simple.
Super
It's
yeah.
2 handles, you pull them up, and then
It's
this
just-
big
Are they
claw.
individual? Or is it a linked thing?
They're linked.
Yeah,
They're
okay.
linked. And then this big claw just comes from underneath the sled and then just grabs the ice.
It looks
That's
like
all
a
it is.
garden rake, like
It's,
a beefed up metal garden
It's almost
rake.
exactly like a dog sled. Like
Yeah,
that's how the brakes
actually-
work there. You kind of stand on
I
a
think so, yeah.
rakey looking thing. I've
Exactly.
sledded some, so
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah,
Oh, sweet.
It's
I'm gonna stand on this
giant
thing.
guard rake that you just dig into the ice and hope that it stops you.
You just do a really
Just do a lot of
aggressive
this.
Sometimes it doesn't
bicep
stop.
a lot of
curl.
finger
Right.
crossing. Yeah.
We've had it pull, like, there's a lot of mishaps on the brakes, but
Not
the
when I've
other
been on
day,
brakes.
like, we had them pull through one time where they pulled so hard and like there's like a curved piece of metal that holds them, and like they pulled past the rake, so it was just the curved metal, and you're just on like bare metal essentially in the braking stretch going 85. And you don't slow down until you hit like a snowbank.
So too many curls. He did too many curls.
We've
You can be
had-
too strong.
Okay.
We
You
had
can
a
be too strong.
driver launch. Boy, they're probably going at
Yeah,
that
they
point
launched it off a
70
ramp.
at the
That was pretty
outrun.
sick.
Yeah.
Hit a snowbank and launched. I don't know how far.
They were
in the
okay,
air.
luckily. But yeah, sometimes the brakes don't grab. Sometimes they break. Sometimes something gets jammed in the way.
And the sleds don't fly too good, right?
No, they're not. They're made to be on the ice,
Yeah.
not off the ice. I mean, and usually, if you don't stop in time, you're going to hit hopefully a rubber barrier that slows you down.
Hopefully.
But a lot of times, it's just the track ends. They stop putting ice on it, and
Yeah,
you're
they're-
just hitting concrete.
They're real dicks.
And
yeah.
So it's not like a truck run out. Like you really
No.
want all your
No.
equipment to
No,
work
you-
properly and
And
for everybody to be timed right.
You have to sand those runners, right? So every time we prep for a race, this is a whole nother portion of
Oh my gosh.
This is actually what bobsledding really is.
Yeah, okay. Let's
This
get
is
into
the-
it.
this is the
90%
throw it out
is
there.
just sanding and working on the sled.
Yeah.
So like those runners, we sand them down to like a chrome polish before every race. Normally they're pretty like
Sand and
kind of
both.
like the metal on this. Like it's just
Yeah.
it's
So you guys have, like,
anodized.
8,000 or 12,000 grit sandpaper that you're,
and
that
we
you're
use
running
like
over
a
that.
paste and stuff at the end to like really
Yeah.
get the mirror finish.
Yeah.
So if you hit concrete, you take that beautiful mirror finish that you've been working on
Doesn't
for
help it?
hours, and it's just
Yeah, no,
grated to
it's-
pieces.
Not like a
And we're-
sharpening stone?
And we're self-funded athletes, so I,
Oh, no
as
kidding.
a pilot, I buy
Yeah.
my runners, and they are not cheap. So
Yeah.
So you run different runners than another pilot.
yes, we all buy
That's
our own.
interesting.
We
That's a
all
big
buy
part
our
of the
own
game right
runners.
there, yeah.
They're
Yeah.
thousands of
Ice
dollars.
temperatures.
Runners will cost
So there's
between six
You have
to
a set of them.
Yep.
Yes,
multiple. Yeah,
Yeah.
They're anywhere between $6,000 to $15,000 for a set of 4 pieces of steel.
Yeah.
And then we
Thin,
hand
thick.
sand those like
What the hell?
Tapered.
it takes us hours to
Yeah.
just hand sand these things down. We start high, work our way down to a really fine grit, get them to a mirror finish if we can, and then try to keep that mirror finish to go from heat 1 to heat 2.
For hundredths of a second.
Like,
It sucks.
it-
Really? And it does make a difference, right?
Absolutely.
Like a
Absolutely.
major difference, I'm
Absolutely.
sure.
difference.
So what kind of like on a standard race day, what kind of time gaps are there from first to, I don't know how many
I mean,
teams are competing,
Sometimes
but
none. I mean, what like the
There are
last
tie-
Olympics, like there was a tie, and that's
Like a
how
legit-
a legit tie.
how
Yeah.
far down do they go? The thousand, the
Hundreds.
hundred.
100.
Yeah. I
That's
think we've all
ridiculous.
probably,
Usually
I
over 1,000.
think we've all won and lost races by
by
100.
hundredth of a
That's
second.
It's
absurd.
It's a real thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And how much of a
Crazy.
sled? Like how much are we talking there? Like
I don't know. The
Well,
width
at
of
the
this
speeds you
cup.
guys are going,
The
I
width
mean,
of this
it's
cup?
it's
Yeah.
probably what? Yeah, like
Yeah.
Yeah,
inches.
no joke.
Yeah.
I mean,
Inches.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember we did the math on it, and we were like, "You got to be kidding me! Like, we couldn't have finished
It's
a
the
little
difference
quarter
between
inch."
somebody hits a turn and they're 8 feet in there, and one person hits a turn, they're 7.5, and maybe that 7.5 gave them a little
Yeah.
bit more.
Or it being a little warmer and slicker, or like the
Yeah,
tiniest,
sometimes-
like the tiniest little thing can make
Yeah.
a difference.
Weather can make a big difference. Like if you
Snow.
start
Yeah.
early
Snow's a
and
big
it's
difference.
snowing, you want to be off the track early.
Like as
just to-
fast as
yeah,
possible.
Right, and then that can change the speeds for the track.
Yeah.
You see sometimes heat 1 and heat 2 has drastic different times just due to maybe it got warmer.
If
during the
someone
day.
crashes in a heat, possibly it tears
Sure,
up
that
the
helps
track.
it out.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah,
dirty
so-
things people will do when it's snowing. They'll like pull the brakes late, so they go all the way up the outrun, slowly work it
Yeah.
down. That way they're icing the dudes up top because now instead of
Snow's
being
falling on the
inside
track.
warm,
Yeah. Yeah.
snow's falling on the track, which slows down the push. So there's like some
Interesting.
dirty little tricks people
Yeah,
will
you
do.
can. We can legitimately like here, especially that start ramp is exposed. So if it's a snow day,
Are they usually covered?
Depends.
some places
As
this
of
one's just
late,
not.
Yeah, as of late, more and more tracks are getting covered,
Like completely top to bottom?
top
or
to bottom.
really?
But they'll
Okay.
open. We call them shades. They'll open them for the World Cups for the camera crews.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the World Cups, yeah, you're dealing with the elements, and they'll do a sweep. They have a sweep protocol where they'll brush the grooves,
every
but
two,
you know, yes, at most it's like every
little
couple
push broom?
sleds.
Yeah.
It really is.
Is it?
And
Or
actually,
yeah.
like leaf blowers.
And
or
actually-
something.
Leaf blower.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty fancy.
So I'd like to show you, or at least tell you about
Yeah.
St. Moritz is kind of where it all started.
Yeah.
They use brooms that are made from like the twigs of branches. It's super old school. They stick to the traditional roots. So when you said, "Oh, a little broom," yeah, this is a little like
Twig.
like a Wicked
Twig
Witch of the
yeah.
West.
Wow.
That there, it's really cool the amount of history from them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also the only
It's a handmade,
man-made
yeah.
track. Yeah, handmade track.
That
Everything
one.
else is
That one is the only
The one
man-made
with
track.
St. Moritz.
Yeah.
They have four
Which means-
permanent turns.
How do they make a man-made track?
They bring ice up from
Bring
a
ice
lake.
from a
Correct
frozen
me if
lake.
I'm wrong.
Yeah,
they bring
that's
the ice
right. No
up from
kidding.
a lake and just
Every
shave
year.
it themselves.
And there's a dude that like
So
knows
every
turn
year-
3, and that's his turn, and
Yeah.
he shaves it down every year.
So
Yeah.
so the
So it
track,
changes a little bit every year.
track records
kinda
and
cool.
start records are a little different every year. And the track, the characteristics of the turns are the same, but the track is never the exact same, which is kind of cool. And it feels like we're rally racing. You know, like you're on WRC
Yeah.
driving through the
A little
woods.
slicker?
Well, no,
It's
just
quiet.
you're literally going through the trees. I mean, it's like
Oh,
supernatural. Whereas here,
Because it's an old
you-
track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on the side of a hill in the Alps in Switzerland.
Yeah, there's like
So it's
no
probably
base.
ugly.
Super
Yeah,
ugly.
it's just
not worth
I mean, not that you guys are like
visiting.
looking,
I
but
think it's everybody's like least favorite place.
The worst place to be.
So because it's all natural, there's no cement underneath. It's super quiet. There's no expansion joints
Okay.
for the temperature changes. So it's just all you hear is
Just dead wind.
You're going like, what's the speed record there? It's one of the faster tracks.
90.
It's 92, yeah, and it's just
That's wild.
silent. Whereas here and most places, you have cement.
It's a freight
that has,
train.
Yeah, it's
You hear it
just,
coming down. It's a rumble. We see it on Thursday. You'll be like, oh, okay. Yeah, I know it's coming.
Is it loud for you guys in the sled too? Or is that kind of all...
I still have tinnitus in
zoned
my left
out?
ear from my first crash.
What?
Just from like when I hit it. And then when we crashed the other day.
please keep reminding me. Yeah.
We
And who was
crashed the
driving?
other day. Yeah, this
Yeah,
guy.
this guy,
When this guy
This dude's
negligently
an Air
crashed
Force
us.
pilot. So, yeah.
My ear was ringing it's so loud when your head's on the ice and you're moving at 80 miles an hour. Just imagine going on the highway at that speed and then just
On
throwing
your
your
rims.
head. It's just like, I'm just going to flip this car and put my
Or
head on
like
the
open
concrete.
your minivan door and just roll out with a motorcycle helmet on.
No, I think I'll be
That's
good.
that's about how loud it is.
Wait, you think I have a minivan? What kind of judgment was that?
Just tip.
What are we throwing out here? It's terrible.
Your minivan. Why is that the car you're
How dare you?
sliding
I don't know. Do you have a minivan?
That's how they're
I
gonna
feel like
sled
you're
to the
projecting
track
over here.
Yeah.
He actually is driving a minivan.
He's driving a
That's-
minivan.
that's
All right, pilot has a
actually
minivan.
He's
what
driving
we're
a-
putting in our
we
four-man
put our
sled
sled in the minivan.
In the minivan.
We have a stow and go. We'd knock all the seats down, stick it in the back of the van, have the back door open, the side doors open, strap it in, and we're just driving to and from the track with that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty professional.
Still not going to
like you
support
said,
it.
athletes we're self-funded. So
That is
van's-
wild.
we had to rent
Yeah.
a vehicle, and we tried to rent a
Cargo
cargo
van.
van. They were like, we don't have it. It's like, all right, well, give us a stow and go van. All right, they had that. We get it, and that's what we're using to transport our sleds back and forth.
So you knock all the seats down, and then you guys get in the sled, and then he drives
Yeah.
the minivan. Is that what's going on here?
Exactly. We practice our riding positions.
It's like our own man-made wind tunnel in there.
Yeah. And we don't have to do that typically. This is kind of an anomaly. And then at our home track, we don't have to do that.
Yeah,
but
Lake-
in other
Lake
countries,
Placid is
we
our
do
home track.
actually have to do
There's a
that.
garage at Lake Placid where we normally.
So you guys train at Placid.
Yeah,
Placid's
primarily.
our home base.
that's where the
For
Olympic Training
all
Center
of
is.
the... Okay.
All of USABS.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's that. There's two training centers. There's the one in Colorado Springs,
Mhm.
which houses a lot of different sports.
summer.
A
Most
lot of summer athletes, and then
Yeah.
like most winter athletes, gymnastics for some reason,
Yeah.
and like ice hockey and all that stuff
bummer.
is up in Lake Placid. Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually, well, anyways.
And we have sled trucks. They're like box trucks that pull right up to our team garage.
Load
We
'em
throw
in.
2 sleds
Yeah.
on at a time.
Yeah.
Go right to the top. It's definitely a blue collar sport. I mean, we work.
100%.
We
Lot of
do a
grit.
lot of the day-to-day maintenance on our sleds. Obviously, we can't fix everything, and we have really talented sled mechanics that do the real stuff.
I mean, what are they made out of? The
Carbon
sleds
fiber.
themselves. They're all carbon.
Carbon
fiber,
fiber
steel.
with steel frame on the inside,
Okay.
which
Yep.
is
That's what takes
that
the
frame.
the
is-
weight.
Yeah, for the most
Yeah.
part, and then that frame's usually what we're holding on to when we're in the sled. Like we don't have. You can put some handles in there that we just kind of like hose clamp down.
Yeah.
Or you've got some straps that you're holding on to, but for the most part, you just jump in. You're putting your feet around each other, so you're sitting nut to butt, and you're holding on to the sled.
Yeah.
And that's how you're staying in, not flying out.
We really actually
Four of
lock-
you in the space like this, right?
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Smaller, yeah.
We
We
can-
fit inside this
We
table.
can fit
yeah.
inside this table.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to test this out later.
How are we looking up there, Sergeant Best? On target, on time, boys! Fire for a flip! Here we go! Set! You heard him! Fire for a flip!
And then we lock each other in. Like everyone's kind of pushing into each other, so you're not sliding back and forth.
Except you.
I lock my ass into the back of the sled, and
Okay.
then I
There's
use
like a
that.
lip
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, the
The
lip,
side lip.
and
Okay.
then I use that to drive my head into the 3 guy, and I'm trying to bruise his back. Like that's how hard you want to put. And they'll get bruises.
I've
And
got a bruise right now.
You'll have
Yeah.
a tender spot.
yeah,
Yeah.
you just drive your head.
Is that
into
from
them.
him or the crash?
It's just for
Yeah,
we
it's
do
just
it for
riding.
air.
Like, it's just
Yeah.
imagine like a
Yeah.
motorcycle helmet buried on your spine. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the
Powered by
idea
him.
is you want to
powered
be
by a strong man.
as close to the guy in front of you, but also fill up as much of the sled on the inside as you can for aero. Like
Yeah.
aero, you want that wind to just come over top. You don't want it coming into the sled, creating any kind of drag.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there. He's driving. I sit 2.
Okay.
So I'm sitting probably about 2 inches away from his helmet. And then the next guy's got his helmet just dug into my spine. Like I can feel a little tender spot where he's
Mhm.
supposed to be. And then behind him, the other guy's got his helmet in his low back. But we're trying to fill out like wall to wall and sit there and just try to be as tight as possible and not let any airflow come through in between
Okay.
us.
And it
So the
truly
tighter
helps.
and wider you can be, the better, because you're
Right.
filling up that space trying to look like a bullet.
Yeah. No, you don't want no dead air in that sled.
For aero, and then also the sled throwing you around. If you're not locked in, like you're gonna like
changes
we've had
the
people
weight
break
and
bones from not riding well.
And does that kind of snowball down the track? Like if somebody's not quite locked in and they start getting bounced around, do they get bounced around worse as it gets faster and they get deeper down the track? And then does that affect how the driving is?
Yep.
It does.
Can you feel if they're really locked in or not?
Up at the top of a track, I can tell if the guys are trying to get their handles or moving around a little too much because they can kick the sled into a skid from loading late, loading rough, or fidgeting on because we have no pressure in the sled on a straightaway, so the sled is skittish as
Kind
it
of
is.
moving.
Yeah, and if the guys are moving, now the sled actually wants to move with them.
Okay.
So they usually do it in the first higher pressure corner. They'll kind of sink down, grab their stuff, and they're good to go.
Yeah, you want to be able just to load as fast as possible and then just hit those positions immediately and then just lock in. And then if you are going to maneuver, like if you're not quite locked in, you wait till you get into pressure so you don't throw him off.
So you're at the top of the hill, shaking like a leaf because you have 900 milligrams of caffeine in you.
Electric.
And you're trying to break a carbon fiber bar.
Yeah.
So once you load, what do you do with the bars and how does that work? Because I think
That's
most
his
people
job.
have seen them, the push bars, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody's got a push bar. Do you
He's
have
got a
one?
push bar.
Everyone has a push bar
He
except
They all
pushes
stick out
his
or
in,
rotate
yeah.
or how do they work?
Well, you go from back to front. You can tell what the brakeman does, and I'll tell what I do.
Yeah, so he'll load first and then left side, right side, I'll be in. And so I'm the last in. And then at that point, like as I'm going to reach for my handles, you shoot your legs and then you want to hit your foot pegs immediately. If you miss your foot pegs, then he's going to be sitting on your foot. You can break. It's not going to be comfortable.
Yeah.
So you got to hit your
Spiking
tiny
the
little
calf,
foot pegs immediately, or I just spike the hell out of him. He's
Yeah.
going to be bleeding, which is a fun payback maybe. And then like as I'm going to grab my handles to try and get my head down on my crotch, I'm going to hit. There's two different braking mechanisms. There's like a string that you can pull, which will pull the brakes in. On some of the newer sleds, you actually just reach over and pull them back.
There's
so-
no mechanism.
there's
You have to
there's
physically,
magnets that just
manually
hold
do
them
it.
in.
Yeah, they get stopped.
Oh, there's
pushing
magnets.
out,
Yeah.
and then you can actually pull them on the release back.
And which one's more comfortable or which one do the athletes like better?
The newer the sled, usually the better everything is. So like the older sleds have just been through quite a bit, and you've had however many hundreds of runs of dudes pushing these things as hard as they can. So they're a little warped. They don't like sit straight. But like our newest sleds, it'll be like perfectly perpendicular to the ground, and they're very sturdy. So the more sturdy an object you can push against, the better.
Yeah.
Usually. So,
I like to pull them back just because I know that I got them. Like sometimes when you pull the string, like it's
works
so loud
kinda.
that
Stuff
I
to
can't.
break.
Like it
Yeah.
sort of works.
And there's multiple links in the chain for that. So that string can break. The string needs to pull on a release
mechanism.
that could also break. So it's nice to have a simple setup that you can visually see yourself close it and get in and down. For me, I have the 2 D rings here, and there's also a push release. So I just press that lever and I know when I've hit it and I can see the bar drop. So it's a little easier for me. So I have that bar and just the one release.
I'm sure that's like a little bit of a anxious moment, right? Getting those bars, and loading.
early
that whole
on,
process.
when you're
Start.
in it new, and everyone's like, don't let the push bars get broken, because if you like leave them out, they'll hit the side of the track and it'll break
You
it.
leave them out. and
Way
they-
less wind resistance. They're not even there.
Well, and you'll go into a turn, and if that push handle's out, you're gonna break the handle off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you
just
don't-
clean off.
Throw off his run.
Yeah. And then
And like these
you're
aren't,
ruining everyone's
there's not
track.
like there's a parts store, right? So like,
Really?
you
Come
can't-
on.
They,
Guys, don't go down the
like
street in Park City.
Because we
I
didn't hit
wish.
the price of sleds, but like a 2-man sled is like 50 to 70K. And
Our
then
BMWs.
And are those-
so our 2-man BMWs are 80,000 euros. Our 4-man BMWs are over 100,000
And are
euros.
those provided by
Those are
the national?
those
Sometimes.
are given by the federation.
sometimes
Okay.
you can
Like, during the
choose to buy
season,
your
you
own
have to
sled.
rent those out.
Yeah. Some guys do it.
There's federation equipment, and as you get ranked up, you get access to the better and better federation equipment.
Yeah.
And yes, there's a rental fee to use it.
Yeah.
And then there are also athletes that will go out and buy their own sled because maybe they're
They must be poor.
Yeah.
They are now.
if they weren't
Currently.
they are now.
They're definitely-
But like let's say the federation has this competitive equipment, you're not ranked high enough to get access to
Yeah.
it, but you have sponsorship or however you have the funds to make it happen. They go out and get a competitive sled for $50,000 to $70,000. I'm not
Okay.
able to do that, so I I was racing in a sled from 1992 up until last
So
season.
you still are. It's the 4-man stuff from 92. But it's fast. It's
that
fast.
4-man's from 12. Yeah. So we were racing in an older sled, but we were still winning medals in international competition. But it was just in a sled that was about as old as I am. And it's like race cars,
kidding.
It's exactly like race cars. Like from a funding perspective, from like technology, like
more
like
money's better. Like there's a reason Mercedes and Ferrari keep doing well.
Yeah.
Like money talks.
Big time.
Development,
Big time.
testing, all that stuff is just dollars, right? And so you don't have bobsledders are not gentlemen drivers as they are in the in the racing world, where there's just like a guy who's got millions of dollars, like, hey, I want to go.
It's not like Le Mans.
Yeah, it's not the same. Not the same equation. It's just a bunch of people that just got out of college or some stage in their life, and they're like, I want to do this. And like, oh man, this is really expensive. If you don't know that until you're knee deep in it,
Right.
So
you're saying post-collegiate are a lot of the athletes that are coming there. What are the general sports that guys are coming from, and like why do they choose sledding instead of something else?
I think top 2 is probably track and football.
The men's team is a little less, I think, diverse in their backgrounds. You could sum up 80% of them in track or football.
And what events? And positions?
Sprinting, jumping,
decathlons.
decathlon.
You just running backs or like D-backs.
Okay.
Like, or wide receiver.
Wide receivers.
Wide receiver runner. Basically someone who's got some size and someone who's got some speed.
Yeah.
I was a
makes
wide
sense.
receiver and decathlete, and let's see, he ran sprints. What did you do? You were football.
I ran track.
I did a little bit of
Sprints like less than the quarter, like 200, 100, 110, like any hurtlers.
Just lower and lower, please.
We got a 110 hurdler.
I was a short sprinter and a long jumper.
We've got a silver medalist, 400 meter runner.
So he's probably slow.
Yeah.
A lot of CrossFitters on the women's side, and then Blaine was a big CrossFitter too.
Yeah,
So,
I came from CrossFit into bobsled.
Yeah. So like I'm good at everything. Kind of.
No, like
not at CrossFit anymore. But
Not anymore.
I did. So I went to the CrossFit Games in 2016.
Oh, cool.
And immediately knew I didn't want to go back. I was like, nah, I'm done.
Ain't for me.
Yeah.
It's too much spandex. I need more.
Exactly. Too many clothes here. I need to put on more clothes.
Yeah.
No, so like I'm one of the few, I think, that didn't come directly from track or football.
Okay.
But on the women's side, like we've got women who are coming from track, but also a lot more that are starting to migrate in from the CrossFit world.
Softball, volleyball, like swimming. It's very, very diverse athletic backgrounds from the women's side.
Interesting.
However,
Is that
I
just
would
because
say
there's
still-
not the same feeder sports necessarily, and not the same length, like history of culture of bringing people over? Is that part of it, or
whatever it works because they're winning everything.
Yeah,
are they?
they're
Killing it?
Our women's team are
best in the world.
back-to-back world champions.
Damn. So it's like the crew team.
Yeah, they're getting medals in every Olympic.
they're good.
They've medaled in the last 2-3 Olympics. But yeah, they're
They've been taking care of business for a
Shout
while.
out
We will
to them.
likely go gold and silver in this Olympics.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
They will.
They crush
women
it.
will.
The
Yeah.
women will.
So it's 2 teams that end up getting 2 full sled teams.
3. Hopefully for us,
You can
3.
get so the way that it works is 2 countries are allowed to send 3 full teams.
Okay.
So
Why is that?
It's just allotted based on spots that they have available.
Okay.
And not every country is going to be available to send 3. So they say whatever country's got the top 3 can go, and then whatever country's number 2 can send their next 3. Germany will most likely be the country that will like for sure send 3 sleds. And then there's going to be like a 4-way fight for that, including us. So like us, Latvia, Russia, potentially China. We're all going to be fighting to get that 3rd sled. So we're pretty confident we'll get 2 sleds going to the Olympics next year. It's going to be a fight to try for us to get that 3rd sled because we have got to go against some great
rank.
countries.
It's like international rank, and there's a lot of ways you can get points depending on the different circuits you can run. There's essentially 3 different tours that you could go on. So World Cup is the top. That's where it's like, first is a full-on first place, and then you have European Cup and North America's Cup, which are the lower feeder series that you can run.
So it's probably not confusing at all.
No. Yeah. So a first place in like an NAC race or a North America's Cup or European Cup is like a 13th on World Cup. So it's like, there's a whole points equation. You got to like
point system that you got to try to do. So like our strategy for this upcoming season is we're going to send 2 sleds on the World Cup and they need to go maintain top 13 finishes.
Yeah.
Which should be fairly easy for them to do. sled number 3 is going to stay in North America and need to sweep everything.
Just hammer it.
And win every single race just so they can maintain 13th place in terms of points on the World Cup.
Yeah.
And then they potentially could go finish a couple races in World Cup, and that's how we're going to be able to qualify that third sled.
It's possible.
And maybe go
but
get some EC races too.
It'll take obviously good performance and some calculations. We're going to need to know what races to enter for our best chances.
Right.
And
it used to be the last Olympics. So we've sent 3 sleds, 3 full men's teams to the last few Olympics.
So the U.S. does well in bobsledding.
yes.
I mean, like overall.
Yeah.
Overall, yeah.
Overall, we've had, like the last Olympics was rough. One of probably the greatest pilots who have ever lived has happened to pass away right before the Olympics.
Yeah, Steve Holcomb, which he raced on his sled for his first year, his whole rookie year.
He's one of the guys that like people would look at the U.S. and be like, shit, we got racing against this guy. Like he would win everything, multiple time world medalist, multiple time Olympic medalist. So when he passed away, it was like a huge gap in a learning curve because he wasn't able to fully pass along
Guys had to
everything
pick
he
up the
possibly
slack.
knew because he was still competing.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when guys are competing, they're not going to give away all their secrets to everyone just yet. So the men have been hit. But prior to that, like we got a gold medal in 2012 with Holcomb and his crew. And having that success kind of carried on through. But like I said, when he passed away, that was a huge hit for the men's team. So everyone's been trying to bounce back for that for the past five years or so.
COVID basically hit the men's.
Really?
Yeah. It was rough for a lot of people. So everyone's trying to bounce back from, and I think like the dynamic of the men's team right now, just talking to veterans and everyone who's been around the organization for a while, they're saying like, this is probably the best group of men that we've seen in probably 8 to 10 years, just on the dynamic of how everyone works well together. We're all trying to like fight for those Olympic spots, but we all also know like there's no way we're all going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
We just want those 3 sleds to go.
Yeah, 3 sleds. Because they changed it for this Olympics where
we lost our
instead
third
of
quota spot.
Okay.
Is what
And
happened.
then with COVID, we missed a whole season of an opportunity to earn it back. So normally like this year, we could have been like, all right, let's do everything we can to earn that quota spot back. And then we're going into the Olympic year already at 3, just have to maintain it. So kind of a not ideal scenario, but it's
tough.
not impossible to overcome.
Yeah.
So we'll get it.
What's the average career length for guys that are on the team ish?
I think that range is
probably.
probably.
I mean, do guys stick around for
4 to
2
12.
or 3 Olympics in a
4 to 12
row?
years.
Is there a lot of in and out?
I think it's more in and out. There's a lot of I don't want to throw you guys under the bus, but a lot of brakeman turnover.
Yeah.
Just because it's so demanding, and this guy is primarily a 4-man brakeman. It's like sitting in the back of the bus when you're a kid.
And he's 40.
I'm not 40. He's 1 year older than me. I just want to point this out. He's always. I'm gonna say older, and he's always telling me how old.
It's a sport it's pretty hard on your body.
It is.
And so brakemen usually come through. They try to hit their athletic peak as well as their pushing peak, and they either make it or they don't, and then they usually leave, or they stick around for maybe 2 quads. Whereas the drivers, it takes longer to reach your competitive peak, so you also stick around longer, and it's a little more of a skill that you can hold longer.
He doesn't get drivers. I don't think get beat up as much, and just in the position because I pull jets.
It makes sense.
I pull G's in a jet.
Yeah,
and the way you pull G's is just. I mean, I can sustain 6 G's for a long time, and then pulling G's in a sled bent over sucks. I mean, it's an absolute awful.
No, it looks like a fantastic position to do that in.
Stick your head between your knees, touch your toes, and go hit 6 G's and see how it feels.
Pray he has both D rings.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, I replaced what holds the D rings with like primo bungees. It's not happening again. I learned my lesson. So
why weren't they there before?
He said that for himself.
Yeah.
That information was just for him to kind of rev himself back up.
It's gonna be better.
Yeah.
Well, now the whole world
It's
does.
also like, I think there's also like a lot of dudes in the military, like active military. And so there's the programs that allow that, like the world-class athlete programs only let you do
a specific amount of time.
So it's usually 3 years and then you have to leave the program.
And those guys are
always
getting
come back.
Those guys are getting pretty beat up too.
Yeah.
Like
So
in whatever job they were in beforehand.
I mean, all 3 of us are on. He's in the Army's program and Dakota and myself are in the Air Force's program.
Yeah.
And so like after the Olympic Games happen, he's different because he's a driver, but for the push athletes, we have to we have to go back to our original jobs and do that. And then we can try it again if we want.
My squadron was cool enough when I got into this to support me through it. Like they gave me the time off to be able to pursue it without being in the world-class athlete program.
Yeah.
Then I got we both got into the world-class athlete program, and then that became our primary job, which is beneficial. But quad ends, and then Olympics ends, and then you go back to your job.
And what do the three of you guys do for, everybody out there listening, if you can or want to say?
Air Force Special Tactics, so combat control, pararescue. I'm in that. I'm a special tactics officer, so I guess like combat control would be the best equivalency of that. So
Okay, sir.
I knew that was coming. I didn't want to say it. I was like, I'm a combat controller.
Yes.
But
Got him.
Yeah. I'm just a specialist infantry U.S. Army. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm a pilot in the Air Force.
Flying.
So and I'm just in special operations.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
I don't do anything.
He drops into
He's a good
Verdansk.
American.
Yeah.
He a lot of deployments to Verdansk.
That's about as
a veteran Verdansk.
So let's describe like how that program works, the athlete program at all. If you guys want to go into that.
It's different for each branch.
Okay.
So like I'd let Frankie talk about the Army side of the house, but for the Air Force, we're changing it a little bit now, but it was like always traditionally active duty members are the only ones that could get into it.
Yeah, no reservists.
There's no reserves, there's no guard. So it was like the pool of people that was generally all the O's coming out of the academy who are just like
weird.
Like set up for success to do this. So we're a little different because we're way different. I have like 12 years of service before I started it, and he's been flying for a while. So we're kind of a one-off in terms of who's in the program. But it's like you put into your package together, and then you get up to 3 years, and then you have to pay back those 3 years. So like this is an active duty service commitment.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's all it is. And then we get to focus solely. This is our primary job. So I'm not worried about like maintaining jump and demo and
performance reviews
and all those qualifications. It's a lot easier.
I'm not getting flight evaluations.
Yeah. So we do this full time right now. And then post Olympics, I'll go back to special tactics and, do that stuff again. So
I probably had too many concussions to go back to flying. So we'll see. So watch out, whoever's in that plane with me.
All right, Doc.
There we go. I think this one goes. I don't know.
The Army's world-class athlete program is a little different. I don't pay back the time. And some of us served before and then got into the world-class athlete program like these guys. And then myself, I was bobsledding before the world-class athlete program, then went into the Army, and now I'm stationed in Lake Placid with my job being being a bobsled pilot, go win medals.
So there's probably lots of those MOSs.
Well,
I'm a bobsledder.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
When my drill sergeants first found out, they were like, what?
They're like, that's not a thing.
That's not a thing.
We have this one guy on the team.
That's funny.
Hakeem.
Somebody got you.
We have this guy Hakeem who's like, he's already been to the Olympics and he started the Army program this year. And he is like,
just look him up.
If you've seen the Under Armour model that you like walk into Dick's Sporting Goods and you see the Under Armour model, like he looks like that.
I mean, I don't have a distinct memory of that. I don't try and keep that in mind. But sure, go on.
Imagine just like
unforgettable.
Cut out of granite, and he's just like
6'3",
and so
235.
we would just joke about he went to basic training like in that type of shape, just this bodybuilder look.
It's terrifying.
And he just like gets off the bus at basic training, and they're just like, who is this guy?
So what do you do here? Are you a new DI?
Olympian who runs a 4.3 40 at that speed. Absolutely insane.
So how's the selection work to get like started in the program to become a bobsledder? Like, what's the combine look like? What kind of times and like things are they looking for in a dude to push or pilot, or you just do the thing?
So we all take the same combine.
Yeah.
And just speed and power is the quickest answer.
Okay.
Speed and power. But
size.
Size helps. You do write down your weight when you go to the combine. But they do a sprint test, a broad jump, and then a shot put toss down through the legs, and you kind of broad jump and throw it.
Like a granny jump toss.
Shot. Exactly.
Exactly.
What size shot?
16.
16 for the men.
Okay.
So that's just kind of the parameters that they decided translate to speed and power and successful push athlete.
15-meter sprint, 30-meter sprint, 45-meter sprint. That they measure all in one sprint, and then they do a 30-meter fly.
Yeah, like it's a combined.
Yeah. So then you get 3 shots at it. If you go out and nail it, there's a point system. You go and get all the points. Then hey, cool.
Is it turf or track?
On track.
On track.
Yeah.
Track spikes.
Track spikes
From blocks or just standing.
2 point.
They keep changing it.
It changes.
That's
I was curious.
a contentious
So
issue
you-
for us right now.
You I used to be so much faster from blocks.
Yeah.
It used to be you have a 1 meter kind of fly in.
Mhm.
So they make like a 1 meter box. You have to have at least 1 foot in that box. The timing ice starts at the end of
Okay.
it, and you can kind of
Do like a
whatever
long jump rocking start or
Yeah,
something.
you can't
Yeah.
rock.
Well,
Yeah.
sometimes.
Can't rock.
So in years past,
This
you
is
could
the
rock.
whole thing.
Yeah.
We don't want to go down this.
I like
just
this.
We don't want to go down this
That's
rabbit
why-
hole.
Yeah, we do.
That's
Now
why I
it's-
said 2 point because
Yeah.
it's
Not a 3 foot.
It changes year to year. Sometimes.
I never picked my foot up doing
Now
long
it's-
jump.
Now
Yeah.
it's 2 feet together. Like who starts that way? Except us
But
on
that-
a block.
And I was in
bobsledding.
basic
'Cause,
training
like, when
when they
you
did that,
bobsled,
so
that's
I've
how
never
it is,
even
right?
seen
2
it.
feet.
So I don't
Yeah.
even know what it is.
Anyways,
Yeah,
Anyways, this is
Enough of
really interesting.
we'll get riled up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
perfect. Though.
there's
That's
a
what we
lifting
want. We want you
component
guys to get
to it.
riled
Oh,
up.
yes.
More
I completely
caffeine,
forgot
very
about that.
fetchy
So
coffee.
If you do well there, you get
Yeah.
invited
Talk about the
to
lifts though too.
I will.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
at rookie camp.
I'll do it, sir.
I'll talk about the
Oh, no, no,
Do you guys have to salute him?
He calls me
He's
sir.
in charge.
He
No,
calls me
he's
sir.
here. I'm down here. Yeah. No.
Yeah, so you'll get invited to rookie camp, and then when you go there, they test your lifts, which is a power clean and a squat.
3 rep back.
None of it's really hard to. I don't really like. It's the.
They're not crazy numbers.
It's 150, so 330 for the power clean, and then
Is max.
200.
440.
Oh, it's your
for
max.
440.
For
and then there's like a
reps.
max.
there's
Okay.
a max point system.
So it's
you
kind,
get
it's like
150.
the military PT
Yeah,
test
exactly.
where it's like
You
you
can only
can,
go so
max
high.
out and like
You can go
you
beyond
feel
it.
free to go further,
Yeah.
but it doesn't particularly matter.
No.
Yeah, we can
Okay.
all go beyond.
It's all point
His
system.
power clean is
A lot.
200 kilograms, so that's 440 pounds. And
Not a power
then
clean.
So it's like
But
Okay,
still
sorry.
impressive.
It's extremely impressive.
190 kilos for the power.
and then I don't know.
if anybody's curious, that would be a good deadlift for most humans.
And then I don't know, squat. I know you can hit more than that, but like I can
I
hit.
do hold the
Yeah.
500
Almost
for
everyone.
five.
Quidditch
Yeah.
title in bobsled.
I'd say
500
every
for
dude
5.
can out squat
500
now
for
power
5,
clean.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
where
a little
the
bit.
numbers are at for the most part.
Yeah. That's
Those
really
are just like, I guess, the entry standards.
Yeah.
Like every dude, I think every guy that makes the Olympic team, rarely is there someone who doesn't max the lifts.
Yeah.
You know, the
Which makes
sprints
sense.
Maybe you
necessarily,
get
but
the
yeah.
crazy fast dude. You're just
Yeah.
like, all right.
He's
that's
just insanely fast.
But he's still gonna
You're
be, like,
wow.
pretty powerful
Still
and
solid.
strong.
Usually they'll max the power clean and maybe they just can't squat as
Yeah.
much, but they still have that like elastic
They're just
power.
snappy.
I mean,
yeah.
that's genetic. Like at some
Yeah.
point, you know, when you're starting to deal with those low 4 numbers, it starts to get down to like, well, that guy was just born like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
It's not
he's
like-
just a freak.
It's not like
Yeah.
he was super slow and then all of a sudden, no, it's like,
No, it's like
pretty much
having an
faster.
insanely far broad jump. Like,
Yeah.
well, that guy's just not a person.
Yeah.
He's half kangaroo.
Built-
Okay.
built
Pretty much.
Yeah. And I'm sure everybody broad jumps over 10 feet and
Yep.
stuff
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the max broad jump? I think is
330, 3.3 meters.
3.3 meters.
And I know at
Which
least
is like
most of us have
10-ish.
10,
10 and a half or something.
like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have no idea what
Yeah,
that
every
is.
dude's over
Yeah.
10.
It's
Stupid
weird.
meters.
It's
Talking about
all-
fines and
it's all-
euros, meter
Well,
jumps.
that's another thing.
Guys are out of your minds.
My whole rookie year, I was like, I had to learn kilos, and it's easy
Yeah, I
once
know.
you do
I was
it.
like
It's
lifting. I was
2.2.
like, oh.
But when I first showed up, I was talking in pounds, and everyone's like, "You are not lifting that much." And I'm
You
like,
must be new.
Yeah, I was like, "No, you're right. You're right. Yeah."
That's cute.
I still get shit for
This
it.
is how smart bobsledders is. In the weight room, there's actually a sheet
There's a
that's a graph,
Yeah.
and it has the colors
Yeah.
of what the weights are. and
Here's
it
the
tells you
kilo
how much
equivalent to what
weighs.
you want.
So
I
like,
mean,
if
okay,
you want
keep
those
it simple.
pounds, put red, blue. Exactly.
All right.
That's how smart bobsledders are.
You know what? I mean, you guys are hitting your heads, and I understand.
just funny because we have multiple people that went to Ivy League schools, and we always talk about how dumb we are.
Yeah, we do. We've got some Ivy Leaguers.
Used to be smart.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's
once.
Hit your head enough, dude.
Used to be wealthy and smart, and now we're bobsledding.
Now I'm bored. I slipped down a hill.
I'm probably the only one fluent in kilograms.
probably.
Yeah, I know like round numbers and stuff. You know, I know body weights and the weights that I would lift and can convert.
See, I'm not. I'm
But you-
opposite way
medium,
now.
large.
I don't know. Like, I haven't lived in the States since 2015, so I don't know. Like, I forgot what pounds are because I've been doing everything in kilos. So when you guys are like, "Oh, his weighs 230 pounds," I'm like 140 kilos. Okay. Like,
Yeah.
like, all right, cool, got it.
Where were you living outside of the States?
Used to live in Sweden, and I lived in Iceland for the past few years.
For sledding.
No, my wife is from Iceland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good for you.
There is
Also-
zero sledding
Also a
in Iceland.
CrossFitter. Yeah.
That's
You might-
interesting.
for as-
Are those guys literally too big to fit in a sled?
it literally is a land of giants.
Yeah.
But yeah, my wife is from there, so we live there. We own a couple gyms. For as, I guess, for as athletic as I probably am, my wife is 10 times more athletic than I ever was.
You're like, so I want to do
She's like,
CrossFit.
European
Let's go to
champion.
Iceland.
No, actually,
we'll recruit
that's
Vikings.
how we met, was doing CrossFit. But
I'm
she's
not
like
surprised.
European champion in gymnastics. She went to the CrossFit Games. She's competed at Worlds in weightlifting. She was a fucking gladiator on a Swedish TV. Like, you remember American Gladiators?
Oh,
She
yeah.
was one of the gladiators on the Swedish version of that show.
And they just had a kid.
And we just had a
Super big.
Well, that's
yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah, get your contracts
Did
ready.
it have hooves?
mentor?
Is it already fast?
But yeah, that's the whole reason why I live out of States.
Very cool. And what kind of training schedule do you guys run? Like year round ish
Year round. So let's say
for you guys.
start with the off season.
Well, it's 4 years, right? So
4 years,
Yeah.
yeah. So you start the off season, which is usually April-ish time for most people. Some guys, depending on how long they competed that season, they'll take a little bit more time off. But you're training fairly hard, fairly often in the off season, probably twice a day, 5 days a week, 4 days a week.
awesome.
Leading into preseason, you start tapering down. We have push champs that happens every year. We use that as kind of like a metric to see who's in the best pushing shape right now. And then based off those numbers, plus like the races we're going to be doing the next couple of days, is how people make selections. So most guys on the pushing side of things are going to train to try to peak a little bit for that push champs, make the team.
Gotcha.
And then in season is just, you're sliding so much. You train enough to not lose anything that you built over the off season.
Yeah.
So you
I mean,
might
I'm sure
train
it's like a
2
lot of
days a
other
week.
sports where it's like
Yeah.
get to the point where you're just about to peak somewhere in the season and then just ride it out.
Exactly.
Maintain.
Yeah.
as you can.
Maintain
And
as
then
best you
need to
can.
peak for world
Peak for worlds.
championships
Yeah.
because we do compete every year.
Yeah.
And in non-Olympic years, we have world championships. So you want to peak for that.
Yeah. Small peaks.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
like you'll peak, we'll kind of peak for push champs, make the team. And then even though every race really matters, what we're trying to do is to get ready to really race at Worlds and try to go do our best at that, because that's going to be like the setting point for how the next season is going to go. So like 2 mini peaks kind of throughout the season, and then just repeat that through the 4-year cycle.
And so you guys are here this week. You'll be on the track tomorrow and Thursday, right? So
racing
where are we at in your kind of training cycle leading up to the Olympics?
Right now, well, for me, I'm going to be racing the next 2 days. So I'll be racing 2-man with Frankie and then 4-man with Frankie.
Cool.
Like I said, right now we're training enough to kind of keep the body ready to push the sled and be
Okay.
fast. I'm obviously, this isn't the point where like you want to be as strong as you possibly can.
Yeah.
You just want to be in this best pushing shape as you can. And then once that's finished, we'll have until July to get ready for push champs. That's going to be
All right.
like the final type of test for all of us. So everyone's going to, at that point, everyone will be peaked, because
Yeah.
if you don't do good at that push champs, you don't have a chance to make it to, so everyone will be peaking for this upcoming push champs in July.
And then at that point, everybody's probably looking at like counting down the days to the Olympics.
Yeah, oh, they
Like,
already are.
like they're like,
Yeah.
it's,
Everyone knows.
it's X amount of days,
Yeah.
hours, it's
Inside of
happening.
here.
Got a-
They've got a clock.
They got a
inside
tick
their
that
training
counts
center.
down.
Yeah. All right, where are we at? How many days?
Like
We're under a year.
Under a year.
300 now.
300 and something.
Yeah.
And I can't say training is very different year to year.
Yeah.
To try to answer your question, I mean, we're trying to peak for these important races, these important evaluations for the push athletes, and then of course you want to be ready for the Olympics as well.
Yeah.
But to get there, there's very few people who can be like, I'll go light this year. Like,
Yeah.
I can only speak for myself. I train, and I know these guys too. But I mean, we train hard throughout the off season.
Well,
Come in as ready as you
someone
can.
You
always
can't
wants your
half-ass
job,
it if
right?
you want to
Yeah,
win,
there's-
right?
Someone's always
Exactly.
coming for your job.
There's somebody out there
Yeah.
training harder than you are.
So
Yeah.
I can't
Always.
I can't say that it's a different training environment. I think, coming into Olympic season, you're probably like cutting back on the cookies a
Yeah.
little bit more, like things like that. You're definitely like not. See what?
It's like, I'm just going to run an extra sprint.
So, I mean, I can't
Leave
speak
me
for
alone.
everyone, but I really think that our team, we just work hard as often as we can and come
Yeah.
in as prepared as possible each year. So
That's awesome. I mean, for everybody out there listening, like that's a really cool thing to hear and for people to listen to, especially with all the COVID lockdown and, people being stuck at home and gyms being shut. Like there's always somebody out there working harder than you, and that gives you something to aim for. Like somebody always wants your job, so if you're lucky enough to be employed, if you're lucky enough to have a position that you want, keep working hard for it and prove that you really want to be there, because there's somebody else that wants it more than you,
Right.
probably, and they just weren't fortunate enough to get it.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's a great thing to hear, and for people out there to hear, especially coming from elite level athletes, like world-class guys. So it's great. And good luck to you guys in the next couple days, right?
Hey,
Yeah,
thanks.
Thank you.
You guys pretty stoked?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Racing's a blast.
We'll make sure you guys are fueled up with some coffee.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
No, that
sounds
murder-
like you need about a bag each
I think
a
so.
day.
That murdered out is on point.
Yeah, I do like that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for being here. Let's throw your names and your position in the sled one more time.
Yeah, Chris Walsh. I push from the right side. Number 3 guy, I guess is what you call it.
Frankie Del Duca, I'm a driver.
Dakota Lynch breaks 3 spot.
Blaine McConnell, 2 spot.
Well, guys, that has been freaking awesome to talk to you. Good luck tomorrow and Thursday on the track. Stay safe, race fast and hard. This is Trevor Thompson with Free Range American.